We're very, very excited to have you here. This is not a microphone. This is like this makes light. This is. Hey. Yeah, it works, but it's so weird to hold it. How are you guys?
Good, thank you.
So let's start with a quick introduction. Please introduce yourself very quickly to the audience.
You go first.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Liran Farazis. I'm the director of the Enterprise Security Department from Sygnia Consulting Company.
Nick, please join us. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Saw you earlier at the main stage. Okay, guys, continue presenting yourself.
My name is Chen. I'm the current CIO and CISO of Papaya Gaming and former CIO of Kato Networks.
Hi, my name is Borberg. I'm the currently CISO and Director of Security in Fiverr.
Oh, sorry. I'm Nick Anderson, and I was late, but I'm the Executive Assistant Director for Cyber at the U.S. CyberSecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. It means I run our U.S. defensive cyber mission within the Department of Homeland Security.
Guys, thank you so much for being here. I think this is a super unique event and a super important one because every organization right now has to assume that in the next 3 years they will experience a cyber crisis. I think everybody has to assume that. Now, of course, it's not 100% sure, but it's better to assume that you will experience a cyber crisis and be wrong than to assume that you will not experience a cyber crisis and be wrong. So in that sense, if you accept this narrative, that means that you have to invest in readiness and you have to make sure that you have the tools. And in that sense, I think it's very important that you're here. I want to start by asking you an easy question. All of you have seen many things in your lifetime and talked to a lot of organizations that have seen many organizations. So if you had to rank the current level of preparedness, how much organizations are prepared today on a scale of 1 to 5? Just an easy start. Where would you put the average?
Somewhere between 2 to 3, I'd say.
2 to 3? Let's say 2.5.
2.5, yeah.
Okay, done.
So I think from my perspective is around 3. And if I can elaborate, it's because there are always like 3 kinds of organizations. The first one is like the one that's doing everything,
Okay.
A to Z, and very prepared.
Did you implement such tactic? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The one that are doing, I say, best practice and what they understand.
Okay.
And the one that say everything will be fine.
Yeah.
And by the way, they are not only Israeli, also.
Okay. So we have 2.5, 3.
Yeah, so I truly think that it really depends if the company or the sector is regulated or not. From my experience, when companies are more regulated, like financial companies or insurance companies, they are more about the close to 4, I guess.
Wow, we're getting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not 5, but it's 4.
Okay.
For the other companies that are less regulated or not regulated at all, it's around 2 to 3. So I totally agree with you guys.
Okay, so let's do 3.5. Okay, please.
I'm gonna go 2.5. 2.5 seems like a good answer to me.
2.5. Okay.
I think the missing piece is a lot of companies don't look at their interdependencies. So it's great for you to be able to be highly compliant and to look at your internal processes. But if you don't have a conversation with your energy provider to understand what their plan is, or your water provider if you need chilling in your data center, or your communications provider, then all of these interdependencies are what lead to lower resilience than what I think people believe they plan for.
Absolutely agree. So how would you rank the average readiness?
I'll say 2.5 with lots of variations though. So
Yeah.
some companies are better prepared and some companies are really poorly prepared.
So I think everybody here has agreed that as an industry or the world has a lot to do in order to prepare for a cyber crisis. We're far from being ready, and even when we think that we're ready, we are not actually ready. So just please raise your hand. If anyone here think that it's more than what the esteemed speaker said, please raise your hand. If everyone here think that it's less than what the speaker said, of course, I would agree with Nimrod. So if we agree that there is a problem, and there is a problem, and we're trying to move from this responsive approach into this proactive approach, what is the one thing that enterprises should do today that could actually improve their readiness for a crisis? Let's do it again by the same order.
Yeah, I
Daniel.
think the beginning, the most important thing that they should do today is do the tabletop exercise. Like start with that. And once you do that, you easily understand you need something like syntactic, right? But start with the tabletop.
Why tabletop is so important?
It reveals all the communication flaws, the missing procedures, the missing management. It reveals the panic that will happen on a real incident. And you don't want to meet it in the first time when D-Day happens.
Yeah, let me tell you something about that. I think ironically what we see is that good board of management are in a worse position compared to a bad board of management. Because what happened is that the good board of management think that when a crisis will happen, they will be good enough and they will know what to do. But this is the first time that they are dealing with this type of event, and then they discover that there are so many things that they don't know. So absolutely, tabletop exercise is a great way to reveal that. Ran, please.
I'm going more with the classic approach in this perspective. So you need to start to do security by design, starting with the first things that every organization need to be doing. Nimrod mentioned his session now regarding two-factor authentication.
Yeah.
Things that are the basic. Start with the basic, build all the needed process, everything, and in the end, we'll come to practicing playbook.
So
tabletops,
what would you
everything.
consider as the basic in crisis readiness?
Say if you don't have, I would say, the eyes, the detection, the
Okay.
exploration of the organization, this is the ABC for crisis, and this is the beginning from my perspective.
Okay, perfect. Please.
I think that they need to assess the cybersecurity readiness in the company and to actually try to create alignment between technical teams to the business needs and the management here. I think it's truly important.
So when you're saying their technical readiness, you're actually meaning their technical readiness to deal with a crisis, not their patch management or
Right.
firewalls or something like that.
All of
right?
these things are, of course, they're important, but if we need to start with something, they need to assess, understand what they do have in place currently, and then to create the plans. By the way, to start with tabletop exercises is an amazing thing to do. And following that, there are other things that are more about technical stuff. So I
It's
totally
substance
agree.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously you're coming from a company that knows one or two things about that.
Yes.
Okay, Nick, please.
I think you have to designate one person to be your in-house jerk and just to be a default asshole no matter what. Because when you start to do the assessments and you start to do the tabletop exercises and such, so many times people want to move quickly through an exercise for the sake of saying, yes, we completed one, we all feel better about this, or you're looking at it through rose-colored glasses, you're looking at it through a best-case scenario. You need to have one person who has an adversarial mindset who is going to assume that things are going to go wrong and is going to question things and going to ask, yes, but what about this? So I think the first thing is it's a mindset shift. You need that one person who's willing to have no friends at work. And that's going to be the person who's going to make you successful as you start to do these assessments that are so critically important to, again, defining those dependencies and defining what is the outcome we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think this is very much aligned with some of the views that we've discussed in the past, that we will see more and more organizations that will have like a chief crisis officer or something like that. Do you imagine this person to be under the CISO or in any other department in the organization?
No, I don't think it should be part of the CISO's organization. I think that the CISO is an important part of this, but overall, this is not a cybersecurity problem. Cybersecurity is an important core component of how organizations should be planning to respond. This is just old business continuity, disaster recovery. You know, like how can the business or how can the government organization or how can this, critical infrastructure element just persist in doing whatever its mission is day to day? That's a much more broad executive level conversation than just the CISO.
Perfect. Absolutely agree. Professor Barzuza.
I'd like to install a process in place for managing the cyber crisis, for bringing the information up, as Ruby and Tim said, bringing the information up from all the corners of the company and the low management staff and for having decision-making points and with the people who will make the decisions. And I think by doing that, by installing the process, you also answer a lot of the questions that you'll have to cope. And this is also what the system is helping you do in advance to create this process and to customize it to your company.
To move from this hectic
and
management approach into a process.
And I'll just say, this is also the legal requirement. So from legal point of view, boards and management, for every risk in the company, including cyber crisis, are required to have a process in place to bring the information up and to make decision making.
I think
in advance.
I think you joined, if I'm not mistaken, you joined the table after everybody
The
already
first
presented themselves. Can you present yourself in one sentence?
Sure. Michal Barzuza. I'm a professor at the University of Virginia Law School, and my expertise is corporate governance, corporate law, boards governance, board decision making, and so forth.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here. So we've talked about what is the most important thing that enterprises should do today to dramatically improve their crisis readiness. And I want to ask the mirror question. What is the biggest mistake that you see today that companies are making that hinders their ability to handle a crisis? Please, let's do it again by the same order. Daniel.
Wow, they're doing so many mistakes, right? Not
Just to choose one.
Some people even communicate with the threat actor immediately.
Okay. Yeah, we saw that this is a mistake.
I think the biggest problem is that they think everything will be okay, and they're not even preparing communication. So, not preparing the communication for the time when shit happens, and it happens. It's not a question of if; it's a question of when. That's, I think, one of the most common.
Are you talking about communication with reporters from the outside?
No. It could be like communication in general. It could be internal, external, to the regulation.
Yeah, you have to manage so many communication lines during crisis with your employees, with your partners, with your customers, with the public, with reporters, with the regulators, with the shareholders, with the board of directors, with so many different entities. As Andy Maud said again and again, if you don't know what you're doing, you're actually making huge amount of damage for the organization. Absolutely agree. Please, on.
So from my perspective, it's like in the army. As much as you drill and you train, when something happens, you act automatically and you know what to do. And this is the most important thing: to drill, to train, to build playbook, and when something happens, you will do it automatically without even thinking.
So the Yeh Beseder approach, it's going to be okay. We will fix it when we'll get there. This is the number one mistake the organization that I'm making. I absolutely agree with that. Please. Liran.
Yeah, I think that the main mistake that they're not being prepared for this kind of incident. You mentioned at the beginning that in the next 3 years, most of the organizations might suffer a breach or an incident. I think that the thing is that they're not being prepared, and then it creates misalignment between, again, the business, the leadership, and the technical teams. And then when an incident occurs, and I was involved in a lot of incidents in the last couple of years. You can see that the technical teams can actually rank some risk as a low risk, but for the business, it's a huge risk. It's a high risk. So this misalignment is, I think, there are a lot of mistakes, but I think that this is one of the biggest mistakes.
Yep. Nick, if I'm not mistaken, you also joined the table after people presented themselves, and you didn't present yourself, right?
No, I got it.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Yeah, I just wanted you to present yourself again.
I'm that easily forgettable.
Okay.
I understand.
Okay, please.
I think that assumptions are still the biggest mistake that people make. So I was participating in an exercise event recently with some of our critical infrastructure owner operators in the U.S. And during that particular turn, right before I raised the question of how are we communicating through this, cell phone communications went down in the exercise. And it was, okay, well, it's fine. Our primary communications are down. How are CISOs in this community, going to talk to one another to fight through this exercise scenario? And it was, it's great. We've got a chat group on an encrypted app that we use as side channel communications to go out of band if there's a cyber crisis. Like, no, you missed the point. The telecommunications infrastructure is down. Your alternate communications mechanism is no longer in play. what are you doing? And that's the assumptions and the inability, I think, in some ways, to communicate that technical risk to your point that you just made. I think that's a killer when we're looking at planning for organizational resilience.
So I think it was Mike Tyson that said, everybody has a plan until they got punched in the face. Yeah. Michal, I want to ask you the same question, though. I want to focus you on board of directors. The biggest mistake that board of directors are making with crisis readiness.
So the biggest mistake board of directors used to make for a long time was that because they were intimidated by how technical it is, they just preferred not to know. So they were like, this is technical, and I think they're now making it less and less because it has become clear that from a legal perspective, they are required to manage this risk as every other risk, and that means that they are required to know what the process is when there is a crisis. They don't have to understand the technical side, but they have to understand the management of it. So I think most of them are in a situation where they're really they're looking for tools that will help them do that, but still there are not enough tools. They are insulated in a way from the lower management with respect to.
Yeah, so just building on what you just said, and I think what Nick said also resonated well with this following question, is it seems like you have two very different people, or maybe more than two groups of people, that have to somehow collaborate during a crisis. You have the technical people that manage the technical crisis, and you have the legal people, the business people, and that could be the legal people, the public relationship people, the insurance, the investor relations, the board of directors, the business continuity, all of those people that need to somehow talk to those technical people. And I don't remember who said it, maybe Liran, some of you said it, one of you said it, that the technical crisis is not always aligned with the business crisis. Those are two different stories with two different timelines, but they are super connected, right? Mm-hmm. So my question is, how do you bridge this gap? How do you make the technical people and the business people work together effectively during a crisis? Obviously, this is one of the biggest challenges when you design a platform. It is a benefit because you can put everyone on the same place and force everyone to discuss through a very well-designed process. But most organizations don't have a platform. So how do you make this happen?
This is a very big problem, because when incident happens, if you're not proactive about it, if you're not ready, then the first time that the GRC people or the technical people meet the business people is during the incident. And that leads to many mistakes and many issues that come after. So I think only having a proactive management system for that crisis, and crisis can be cyber, can be PR related, can be downtime, right? Having being prepared enough for that in advance is a solution. Like get them into a system or a room together and be prepared to that day.
Go on, please.
So in our perspective, the CISO is the main key point here to connect between the business people and the technical people from, say, the incident perspective, to onboard them to the process, to the training, to give them the understanding of their responsibility when the incident happens, and to make sure that they are working as one team when something is happening.
Mm.
Yeah, so I agree, and I think that in order to achieve this, so you need to train. This is the key message, or the first message, and then the second thing I think that they should do is actually, to assess the environment, to understand, and to get a report that will provide the different tiers from the technical to the CISO to the leadership, to create an alignment and the understanding of what is the current status of your environment.
Absolutely, agree. Nick.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. Being able to, when we start having conversations about things like technical debt, understanding that that's really a risk conversation. But I think you have to have a forcing function for those conversations, and you have to have a forcing function for understanding who cares about what when. So like I'm relatively new in my role. I've only been there maybe 3 months now. So we're doing this internally as a government agency, determining what are our critical information requirements, What are our essential elements of information that make up that information that we expected to be reported when? What are our mission enabling information requirements? How long can I surge network defenders and responders for a certain period of time to surge for a crisis? And then because we're a national security aligned agency as well, what are our priority intelligence requirements that are aligned to that? But at the end of the day, that's just a communications exercise to determine who needs to make a decision and what types of information do they need to make a decision, whether that's technical details or whether it's business details, and just being able to bring people together to have that conversation starts to create some of that intersection, I think, between business leaders and ultimately risk owners and people who are technical implementers and are going to be managing that risk.
Absolutely.
I'll say, I think the first thing is to know that you have to have this channel of communications a priori and ongoing. You're supposed to have this channel of communication with respect to major risks in your company. And also, I'll say again, legally, you're obliged to have them. So the CISO has the responsibility to have information coming up from the lower management and communication with them. The board has the responsibility to proactively seek information from the lower management, including the CISO and so forth. It has to be an ongoing process.
I know it's unbelievable, guys, but we have time for one last question before a very interesting fireside chat. And for the last question, I always like to ask about the future or for an action item. So one thing that you want to tell the audience that they can take with them, something that they should do about crisis management the moment they get back to their companies. One thing should.
I think I said it early on. Get out of this room and do a tabletop. Right? That's the first thing, and it will lead to many, many issues that will surface, including getting ready for a crisis and investing properly in what's missing.
Perfect.
From my perspective, the understanding that the world is changed. Now we are using AI. AI can assist you in everything, from monitoring, detectioning, playbooks, drilling. Everything can now be changed. Use the technology to be able to make sure that you will be better when incident will come.
Perfect.
I want to combine these two answers because, from my perspective, I still see some organizations that they don't really use AI and see AI as an enemy that can harm them. But I think that if you will understand sooner than later how AI can help you achieve your goals, I think this is the first thing that they need to focus on.
Perfect. Yeah.
I just think over communicate, identify every stakeholder possible within an organization. Even if it turns out that they don't have input, at least bring them into the room so you can examine all potential points of view when you're looking at your risk and beginning to assess your plans. I think it's important to go broad and to over communicate early on so that you're getting all those stakeholders be represented for an actual risk conversation.
I'll say the way you see yourself as management, your DNA, apply this DNA, the best approach to management that you have also to cyber security risks, both because it is manageable, it will reduce risk significantly, and also because this is probably the one time the public is going to see you, it's going to be exposed to the public afterwards, and it's the one time the public is going to see you managing a crisis, and the reputational crisis, when companies fail, the reputational effects are huge.
Guys, thank you so much for those brilliant insights. Absolutely. Some of the best minds in crisis readiness and incident response. Thank you so much. I want to introduce the next panel.